This on a day, thank you, Peter, that Walmart missed expectations, Tony. We continue to see an economy that's basically moving at a crawl pace.
Extremely soft, and we even see it, and I think it's worth mentioning, in the election result. For 3 years, we have heard from the administration that this economy is moving well, jobs are being created, incomes are going up, and we saw the exact mirror opposite of that reality reflected by voters who don't feel their personal stake in this economy has improved relatively very much. So by the measures that she is determining, Janet Yellen, I think we've heard for the better part of a year they might increase rates. But if you're doing it based on the idea that this economy is really on a road to serious recovery, I think it's wrong.
Well, we'll see what the Trump plan does.
Yeah, also, Janet Yellen and Trump, it's very interesting after he accused her of, making decisions for political benefit or this or that. We'll see if he, comes and weighs in on that at all, if he kind of lets that go.
Yeah.
Look, there's a desperate need for the kind of dynamism that he's talking about, because whatever they say about incomes and jobs, the fact is that for half of American households, their incomes are lower today than 17 years ago.
Incredible.
The talking points don't mean anything.
Yeah.
What's in your wallet and your bank account mean a lot more.
But this is incredible. 17 years, actually. Meanwhile, more news from Capitol Hill today. Vice President-elect Mike Pence will meet with members of Congress later this morning. Joining us now is Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
Lay out what your expectations are. What are you expecting to hear from Mike Pence today?
Yeah, so this is going to be the first meeting between Mike Pence or the administration and House members of Congress. And I got to tell you, Maria, there's a lot of members of Congress, not me, who didn't think that Donald Trump would win. And so there's a little bit of shock and euphoria happening in the House Republican Conference. And so as we meet with Mike Pence today, it's going to be more about, what are our priorities going to be? What's the vision for that first 100 days? What can we get done together? We know what we want to do, and I think Mike Pence knows what we want to do. But we want to know specifically, what does Donald Trump want to do? And what part of our plan does he like? What parts of our plans don't he like, and what should we go back to the drawing board and start to work on? But I think it's going to be a great opportunity for the new administration and the Congress to start working and talking together about how we can kickstart this economy. And again, as you were just talking about, Maria, this is about middle income, middle American families who have been left behind, and they want someone to fight for them, and we have to work on policies that have that specifically in mind.
Yeah.
How do we help those families? How do we grow the economy? And how do we bring more income into their households?
We've got a great panel here today, and they want to ask you some questions on that. But let me ask you this before I turn it over to my colleagues here. Is your plan much different in terms of taxes than Donald Trump's? We know what Donald Trump wants, 15% corporate tax rate, lowering taxes across the board, rolling back regulations. What is the House plan?
Well, he basically took the House plan and adopted it as his own on taxes. We're in agreement on regulation, but the question for that is, Maria, where do we start? Where do we go first in the rollback of regulation? We agree on the executive orders. Those things are all on the same page. He's talked about this big infrastructure build out. Well, our concern will be, well, how do we pay for it? And I think those will be the conversations that we have. We'll join him as long as we get the resources available to do that great American build out.
Tony Sayegh.
Congressman, great to have you with us. Look, Donald Trump has said among priority number one would be Obamacare, the repeal and replacement of it. There have been many bills that have tried to fix Obamacare as presented by colleagues of yours in the House over the last several years, but there's no real silver bullet out there yet to repeal and replace it. Where are we as far as progress on that very important priority?
Yeah, so you're right. We have a number of different bills, but a lot of us didn't know that we'd have an opportunity to repeal Obamacare with President Obama or with President Clinton. So again, now opportunity is presenting itself. We're not talking about theory. We're talking about real plans that will fix health care for middle American families all across the country. And by the way, Ron Johnson, one of the reasons why he won Wisconsin and beat Russ Feingold was because of health care. I mean, premiums are skyrocketing for middle-income families. And so what we have to do is take any one of our we have 10 or 13 plans in the House and sit down with Mr. Trump and say, okay, is there a specific plan that you like, or is there a combination of plans that we could work with that would put a package together that he can buy into. But again, it's now not just the House anymore. Now we have a partner in the administration that we can work with, but we need their input and insight. And as you've talked about on your show, he's pretty consumed with building out his cabinet and executive organization. So to have Pence come today, that will be a hot topic. How do we build out health care?
So Congressman Steve Hilton here. I just wanted to ask again about infrastructure. There's a feeling we're picking up that the Democrats like the infrastructure plans and the Republicans don't. Do you think that is going to end up being a bit of a split here? And if so, do you think that politically that is something that the Republicans generally need to watch out for? Or do you think it's something that you can live with?
Well, so first, I mean, that's never been the case that the Republicans were opposed to infrastructure. I mean, this debate really started with the stimulus bill, the almost $1 trillion package when Obama took office that was for shovel-ready jobs, and that's in quotes. There was no shovel-ready jobs. We didn't do a big American infrastructure build-out, and this was, you know, Keynesian spending. We were opposed to it for that reason, because it wasn't going to create job growth.
But what's going to change? I mean, how are you going to pay for the infrastructure? Nothing, right?
So one of the ideas is when we allow companies to repatriate that nearly $3 trillion, you know, back into America, whether it's at 5% or 8% or 10%, what rate can we get in taxes to incent businesses to bring that cash revenue home? Now, listen, that's only going to get you, you know, $200 to $300 billion. We'll have a ways to go if it's going to be $1 trillion. But there's a lot of money there for the first several years of that buildup. But that's the kind of conversation, Maria, we have to have on where does that revenue come from? Because do we want to go borrow it from China and add it onto the $20 trillion of debt? That's not going to pass in this House. We're going to pay for the things that we do.
All right, but you know that the deficit goes up with this plan, at least over the near term. Is that okay with you, that it goes up in the near term?
We grow, Maria. We put families back to work. You know that. This is dynamic. We put families back to work. We grow the economy. More tax revenue comes into the coffers. And this is not a static analysis.
Congressman, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
You too, Maria.
Sean Duffy there. Coming up next, why some say Donald Trump's presidency could increase investor appetite for the restaurant industry.